Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Tonight on World Talks, we're joined by Mark Toth. He's co-founder of Intrep 360 to break down the latest developments in Ukraine's war with Russia, from fresh frontline updates and deadly air attacks in southern Ukraine to Ukrainian drones striking Russian fighter jets in Crimea, stalled US-Ukraine talks in Miami, and a senior Russian general killed in a Moscow bombing. What do these events tell us about where the war is heading, militarily and diplomatically? Mark, welcome back. Good as always to have you here.
Great to see you, Ashim. Greetings.
Thank you. So give us a big picture view first, Mark. How would you see the war going on in terms of effectiveness, any big shifts in the battlefield, anything like that? What do you see?
Yeah, if you put it in Hollywood terms, it's really Groundhog Day. For the most part, we're seeing the same thing. Russian advances, to the extent that they happen, are happening at a foot's pace. And some of those are simply because Ukraine continues to do tactical withdrawals and then to entrap, in some cases, Russian forces in those areas and then launches counterattacks, just adding to this meat grinder that's already cost Russia 1.1 million casualties since it started. There are some new developments in that Russia is trying to do some cross raids near Kharkiv and in the northern sections of Ukraine and the northeastern side of Ukraine. But these are just really raids in force. Ukraine is able to fend them off, and Russia, by contrast, is not able to exploit them. In other words, they have no large-scale ability to maneuver in those areas to take advantage of them. I view those more, as does the Institute for the Study of War, is simply posturing by Russia to say, look, at the negotiations, the front lines are crumbling. In the reality, they're not. They're pretty stagnant from that standpoint. From a negotiating standpoint, it's Groundhog Day too, Ashim. Basically, we're seeing everyone talk of progress. The words are coming out that it's constructive, but the reality is we're no closer, in my opinion, to a peace deal. So Groundhog Day would be the best way.
Mark, I want to come to the negotiations in just a minute. I'd just like to dig a little deeper into the situation on the ground, on the battlefield. Now, as you say, Russia's, nothing particularly has changed. It's lost 1.1 million men or had casualties. It's hardly moving at all. How is Putin selling this to his people? I mean, there are no great victories that he can tout. Are they still believing the propaganda?
Yeah, no, Ashim, it's a great question because there are two aspects to that. Either Putin believes this is positively happening in the battlefield because his generals are telling him that. And we've seen that in press conferences where they're asserting that they, for instance, have control of Kupiansk in eastern Ukraine when they don't. It's clear, Zelensky showed up there, took a selfie of himself earlier last week. They don't have it. So I think at this point, Putin is still trying to play a game, in my opinion. I think he gets it that his forces don't have control of these areas, but he thinks he can control that narrative still in Moscow. And if you look at just on state television in Moscow, they don't seem to be a country at war. They're touting their Christmas fairs, the different parades going on there, the lights, etc., as if nothing to see here, right? That the war's going fine, everything's normal. But in reality, it's not. At some point, that just goes to how much the Russian state media can control the narrative in Russia. There's just not a free exchange of information. To the extent that happens, it's happening on telegrams, on social media, etc. And I think the inter-regions, if you will, of Russia get it because they're the ones that are losing these men and women.
Right. Okay. Now, from the other side, the Ukrainian side, I mean, they've just destroyed 2 fighter jets in Crimea using drones. They've been extremely effective in the way that they've used drones, and now they're manufacturing their own. So production has gone up. On top of that, of course, they are assumed to be behind the bombing of a car which killed a Russian general. How would you assess Ukraine's response to Russia's invasion as it stands today?
Right. At this point, Ukraine is not capable of conducting maneuver warfare in any of the frontline theaters. They really are stuck in defensive positions, tactical withdrawals, et cetera. So to the extent that they can bring the war to Russia, they're doing that by hitting Russian logistics. They're doing that by attacking the Russian oil and energy infrastructure to great effect. And they're also doing it by trying to interdict the very weapons systems, fighter bombers, et cetera, that they just did in Crimea in order to stop those launches of missiles and drones to them. And so that's why you see them hitting airfields, not just in Crimea, where they destroyed 4 to 5 aircraft reportedly, but also in western Russia as well. So they're doing these deep strikes. I think that's their best play. And something that you didn't mention that is also of interest is that Ukraine is increasing its drone war deeper into other parts of the world. They've just damaged a Russian tanker in the middle of the Mediterranean, several thousand kilometers from Ukraine. I mean, that's impressive to be able to do that. And so very much drone warfare in Ukraine is a revolution in military affairs, meaning it's something new, it's different, it's distinct to this war, and Ukraine is mastering it. It's their best way presently of striking back at Russia, since they can't do it on the front lines.
Right. Well, and the tanker you were talking about was one of Putin's shadow fleet vessels, which were transporting oil and supposedly now it's coming to light some arms and so on. But coming now, right. Coming back to Ukraine. Wintertime, it's going to get colder before it gets warmer. How's Ukraine fixed for keeping warm?
Look, it's a challenge. I think if we use Odessa, this key Black Sea city port in Ukraine, Russia is pummeling it heavily with drone strikes, as they are across the country. But Odessa in particular has been getting hit hard. It's had ongoing power outages affecting 100,000, 200,000 people a day in that region. In addition to hitting their energy infrastructure there, Russia is also going after bridges in a systematic fashion around the Odessa Oblast so as to affect logistics, supplies, et cetera, key economic routes to the Black Sea for exports and the like, grain in particular for Ukraine, that key component of their economy. And so it's cold and it's dark. And if you look at any one of these cities, you'll see a lot of generators humming at night, electric generators, because the power grid is getting severely damaged. That's why it's imperative for Europe to act. This damage is very real. Russia's not just going after the main nodes on this. They're going after secondary nodes on the power structure, which means the power outages, the electrical outages, are getting deeper and deeper across the cities. And that's problematic. It takes time to replace those transformers, et cetera, that have to be brought in and fixed. And so that's why, I can continually call every time I get a chance on your program to say that it's time for Europe to act and get a sky shield in, meaning air cover for Western Ukraine, to stop a lot of these attacks. Because as you point out, it's cold. It's wintertime. I'm lucky. Where I'm at is about 21 degrees centigrade today, but it's snowing in parts of Ukraine and it's cold. And that it's going to be a very, very difficult winter for them. But Ukrainians have grit, they have staying power, and they'll survive it. It just won't be an easy survival.
No, I'm sure it won't be easy at all. Now, talking about doing something about the situation, of course, the talks in Miami have just ended, with Russian and Ukrainian representatives meeting the US representatives. No big breakthroughs. Is that surprising?
Yeah, Ashim, it's not. Look, Kirill Dmitriev, a guy who's attacked me personally, basically calling me out as a warmonger and a weirdo, which I find ironic, because he's the man that is supporting a warmonger, the person who has invaded Ukraine. He looked like he was on a summer vacation, if you will, or a winter vacation in this case, in Miami. He was taking selfies of himself in a T-shirt on a balcony overlooking Miami Beach. That's not serious in my mind. And even yet, as he got back to Russia after these negotiations with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, he's basically saying, I'm confident that Putin will find these talks unconstructive, that they're not going to work, they're not going to advance it. And you're already seeing other officials in the Russian, in the Kremlin itself, basically saying, no, this isn't going to work either. So despite everyone putting a positive spin on it, I did see the comments from the Finnish President Stau basically saying he thinks progress was made. Zelensky has said it. The Americans have said it. I think that's all cosmetic. I think the substance of this meeting is that not much happened, and Russia's already setting conditions from the foreign ministry standpoint to basically say they're going to reject much of what Ukraine and Europe got amended of that original 28-point peace plan. So I think we're no further closer to a peace settlement than we were, at the start of it. And the biggest news out of it is, sadly for Ukrainians, there's no Christmas ceasefire either. That's been taken off the table by Putin.
Right. Well, Russia hasn't budged at all from its original maximalist demands. Ukraine has made some concessions, for example, agreeing not to join NATO so long as there were security guarantees in place. Why is more pressure not being placed on Russia by the United States?
That's the million-dollar question, Ashim. And you're astute to point out that no progress has been made. Russia continues to be maximalist in its demands. They still want their original war aims met. If anything, in my opinion, you have a unique situation here where Russia's actually amplifying its demands, especially the recent calls. Now, granted, they've said this all along, but they're amplifying it now. It's taking more of a center stage act in the negotiations where they want NATO now to reset to its 1997 borders. That would have a huge, terrible negative impact on the military standing of Poland, because basically there'd be no NATO forces in your country, and arguably, dependent upon how you want to interpret Lavrov's words, it could mean that he expects Poland to be ejected from NATO along with the Baltic states. So Russia's only, not just doubling down on its maximalist demands. I think in some cases they're adding new ones to it, with NATO being the latest. Why? Why can they do that? To your point. Because at this point, the United States, especially Team Trump, is not willing to put sufficient pressure on Putin to change his cost calculus. Every time Putin objects to something, Trump simply gives him something more. And so if you're Putin in that scenario, if you're getting everything you want and you keep getting more from the Trump administration, why would you agree to anything? You're basically winning the deal, the negotiation process, if you will, Ashim, by doing nothing. So until Trump gets it, that he can't continue to appease, because that's what this is. It's appeasement of Putin.
Well, yeah.
We're not going to get any closer.
No, quite. We've seen lessons, how appeasement works against that kind of aggression. Mark, unfortunately, we're going to have to end it there, but thank you, as always, for your analysis, and stay safe.
Thank you, and happy holidays to you and your viewers.
Thank you very much, Mark. Bye-bye now. That brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away. News coming right up.